Most seller thinks that selling a property is like flipping a light switch, but the timeline may be a little bit different than what you're thinking about. So in this video, I'm going to share with you the exact timeline and also alternatives, which I'm going to share with you at the end. So make sure you finish watching this video. And as far as how you can resolve the issue and also have a clear expectation on how long does it take to sell a property from day one to the day of closing. If you haven't met, I'm Tsai, and I've been in the real estate industry for about 17 years. Last year, our group sold over 1,000 properties, and which volume at almost $1 billion. So in this video, I'm gonna share with you the timelines that you should watch out for when you are selling your property in Southern California.
All right, first question coming in hot. What's the first step a seller needs to take if they're even thinking about listing in Southern California?
So usually when a seller is thinking about selling a property is when something has been brewing in their head for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. Maybe, they're getting married soon, they need a bigger house or kids or school or job relocation, or they simply just want to take the money out to do something else with their life. So usually when this happens, my recommendation is to sit down with a real estate professional, and obviously I can help you with that, to figure out where you're currently at, what you're thinking about achieving, and we can sit down and look at all the numbers and also the opportunities and also the reasons why you're selling. Because sometimes selling might not be the right move for you. So in case if it's the right move for you, then what we'll do is to assess how much you can sell your property for. And once you sell it, are you looking to buy another properties? Because if you are, then we're gonna help you to analyze based on what you sell, what you net in your pocket, what can you buy on the other end? If this whole thing makes sense. Or after you sell, are you looking to rent, or you have a place to stay already? Or maybe this is your investment property. After you sell it, can you exchange into something, real estate or not, that generate you a higher return? So those are all the things to consider. But without talking to a real estate professional, sometimes all these questions in your head or talking to different friends and neighbors, co-workers may give you different answers. Not saying that those are bad, but just sometimes when you get multiple input from different people, you could get confused, especially if one of those suggestions that you get is not really good for you. Then you're gonna get confused. And complexity is the enemy of execution. And sometimes by doing so, then you're not gonna make any changes. So yeah, if you're looking to sell your property, let's sit down and I can give you some ideas or suggestions on things that you can do. And I don't push people to sell property. In fact, sometimes when clients tell me that they want to sell their properties, I tell them, don't sell. You got it at such a low interest rate, keep your home. There was one time I have a client who wanted to sell their property locally, and then I helped them buy that property. So I know the interest rate that they got was at 2.5, and they kind of tell me their plans on they want to sell it and then we go rent it, etc. And I was like, if you rent, you're gonna be paying so much more, and what's the intention? And after our conversation, I told them, just keep it. If you don't have to sell it, keep it. So if you're thinking about selling, definitely sit down with a real estate professional, and hopefully it's me, and we'll be able to help you out to create a plan for you.
What's the average timeline from listing day to closing day that sellers should expect in this?
Okay, so one common question that I ask a lot is, okay, so how long would it take for me to list my property and to actually sell and get the money in my bank? The answer is, it depends. Right? So average days on the market in Los Angeles, Orange, and San Bernardino County are around 40 days. So typically, let's say if you put your home on the market, everything's ready to go, and it should take 30 to 40 days to open escrow. And then once you open escrow, depends on the offer that comes in. If it's a cash offer, typically they can close within 2 weeks. Okay. If it's a finance offer, typically I would say it's 21 to 30 days, sometimes 45 days. Typically, I would say 21 to 30 days though. So expect that the day that you put it on the market to the day that you get the money in your bank, it's probably gonna be 2 months. About approximately 2 months. But don't forget though, usually, let's say if you're thinking about selling your property, oftentimes when we go see client, they say they want to sell, we sign the contract, we still need to prepare the property to sell. A lot of time is simple decluttering and cleaning, just making sure that the property is clean, it's presentable, it's organized, it's not a mess. And usually it could take like a week or two, and some properties need staging. And yeah, I would say probably just aim for like 7 to 14 days for the property to get ready. So the whole thing could take 2 to 3 months. But if it's quick, if you price it right and we get a bunch of good buyers and we pick a good buyer, cash offer, we could close within a month. Okay, that's like best case scenario. And I'll share with you one extra ways, which at the end, on how do you sell for even quicker based on different situations.
When sellers think they're geniuses but actually slow themselves down, what's that one thing they always get wrong?
One common mistake that I see sellers make, especially if they are going to buy another property, is that they start home shopping first before they start assessing how much they can sell their home for. And also, as far as, let's say, when they are ready to buy the next property, like how much can they buy the next property? Because everybody's situation is different, right? I would say 70% of the, maybe 80% of the seller that I run into, they need to use their current property's equity, meaning they need to sell their current home and use that money to purchase the next property. And but sometimes I see sellers, they don't realize that, or even they know that, but they want to start looking around first on Zillow or Redfin, just kind of like figure out themselves, which, it could really drag on the timeline. Because just think of it this way: if you're looking to sell your property and then you got a couple offers that come in, and then a few offers are cash or finance, and then your one offer is contingent upon this seller selling another property, which one would you take, right? So, when it comes to selling, and especially if you're buying another property, then we really gotta control the time and all parties' emotion. Because when it comes to transacting real estate, there's not just buyer and seller, there's also the listing agent, the buying agent, well, we call it selling agent, but anyways, buyer's agent. And especially if you're doing selling and buying, and there's another set of agents and client over there. And if one party gets emotional, then everything could fall apart. And so we definitely wanted to make sure that you're working with a professional where they know how to communicate with all parties and negotiate. Because when it comes to selling and buying at the same times, I know we're talking about sellers, but oftentimes because they buy too after they sell, like you want somebody who is the calming force of the transaction and who knows what they're doing, so that when situation happens during transaction, it does happen, sometimes, especially when there's delays and when one party gets emotional, and let's say if your agent start to panic, then the other agent can get the upper hand and push you around and then get you to credit them more money or give us some of your rights. Then that can cost you money and also your sleep at night.
What's the most absurd reason you've ever seen a deal delayed in Southern California?
So let me give you one example where I feel like we're able to help the seller out a lot. So there was one property where the buyer kept on delaying. Okay, fortunately, the seller doesn't need to use this fund to buy something else. But, that escrow actually lasted more than 3 months. Okay, the buyer's lender had issue where, they kept on delaying, and then we gave them a lot of pressure, or else it may take even longer. Okay, because we know the timeline, right? Where after we open escrow, there is an expected thing that will happen, such as the contingencies, meaning like inspection, loan appraisal, and after that, there expected thing that we need to complete as well, such as like clear all the conditions and also solving all the situation. In that case, there was a city inspection too, and there was an unpermitted bathroom which we were able to solve with the city and also with the buyer. So because we know the timeline, we know that the buyer agent is playing game or not, so we're able to put them in place and then give them pressures and penalties, so that way they move much quicker, right? So having a real estate agent, right, ones with experience to be able to see what's actually going on rather than being like played. I would just say, unfortunately, some buyer agent does play game. They don't be too truthful and honest. In real estate transactions, the communication between two parties are very important. So we were able to call the other agent's bluff and then give them pressure, so that way they close in time. And ultimately, my client was able to still get that offer through, and I believe they were able to get $30,000 or $50,000 more than the next offer.
What's one unexpected delay that often sneaks up on sellers that they never saw coming?
There could be a couple unexpected delay, which I'm going to share with you. One, as I mentioned in the story earlier, city inspections, especially if you're living in cities such as like Azusa, El Monte, Pasadena, and we have a whole list of that. So if you are in those cities, what the first thing that we do is to check if we have that. So we do that in advance. And then also, obviously, being able to price the property right, and then be able to communicate with the agent regarding their appraisal. Because if we list and market the property right, there's a good chance we're going to be getting multiple offers, and then we could be getting a price, ultimately accepting a price that's not going to be appraised. Ultimately, we're going to be accepting an offer that's going to be higher in price, which the appraisal may not appraise. So be able to negotiate that upfront is very, very important on the appraisal contingency. And expected delay may be what I can say could be like qualification of the buyers, and also like on the inspection side. That's why every time when we are helping a seller to sell a property, we do a walkthrough. If there are issues that we have to take care of before we market the property, we usually recommend to do so. And then the only recommendation that we do, let's say if we're recommending the seller to spend $5,000 to remodel the place, the goal is to get at least $10,000 or $15,000, $20,000 more. Like one example would be last year, I helped a client sell a property, and they initially, if they don't do any remodeling, they're probably gonna get around $600,000, give or take, maybe plus or minus $30,000. I told them you can remodel first and you may be able to get a higher price. So they did. I believe we spent about $30,000 to remodel. And then, so initially we were gonna list at $630,000, and then hoping to get around that price point, maybe hopefully a little bit higher. But you know, in that market, in that location, if they don't do anything to the property, they really could get under $600,000. It depends, okay? So after they invest that money to remodel, we were able to get multiple offers. And then guess how much we sold it for? We sold it for $750,000. So unexpected delay I mentioned, but the reason why I want to bring out that story is that by looking at the condition of the properties, having our recommendation and our team to come in to help you remodel the place, you know, you could use that to actually net more money in your pocket. That's why I want to share that story with you.
If a seller wants to speed things up in this timeline, what's one realistic thing they can actually control?
You know, sometimes I ran into sellers, they wanted to sell quick, right? Because they would really want to cash out and do something with that money. And so one thing that I would say is to make it easy for the buyer to see the property. Because, you know, sometimes the seller could be picky. They say, you know, I don't want to show this day, I want to show that day because of this, because of that. But accessibility to the property is something that the seller can control. On the marketing, we'll do it. On the pricing, we'll do it together, right? But accessibility is one of the most important things to get a property sold quicker. Because you never know. One buyer that didn't get to see that property could be the one that's buying your home, right? So definitely make sure that it's easy to show. And like I would say, yeah, let the agent do the open house if possible. And if not, then at least let them do private showing. Don't make it too difficult. So as promised, I mentioned to you that there is one way that you could be selling your property for quicker to kind of defeat the timeline of 2 to 3 months, right? Is, you know, we do have a pool of investors that's looking to purchase properties. So if you're looking to sell your properties, but usually those investors, notice they're investors, so they won't pay full price, okay? They will pay under market value to purchase a property. But let me explain why I'm even bringing this up. Because every property is different, okay? If you're looking for that max dollar for your property, this is not the way for you to do it, okay? But if you're okay taking a little bit off of as to what you're trying to get off your property and you're looking for flexibility and a quick close, I do have a pool of buyer that's looking to purchase property, that's looking to invest, especially if your property needs a lot of work, right? So imagine if your property condition is not that good, then, you know, if you selling as is, you put it on the market, then, you know, the investors likely that's gonna buy the property and they're gonna give you a lower price anyways, right? And then even they get into escrow, or if it's people who's gonna buy it for their own home, they want to live in there, they may ask you for a big repair cost, or like, you know, the property is just really a mess, you don't want to show it, then, you know, this may be an alternative route for you to not having to go through the traditional route of getting it ready, putting it on the market, you know, negotiate with the offers, and then open escrow, and then get into escrow and negotiate all that stuff. And also, you know, some property are not financeable, especially if it's not habitable. You know, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, they will not finance those properties. But a lot of those investors that I'm working with, they're cash buyers. So they will buy it in its current conditions. They will work with your timeline. You don't need to do any repairs. So that could be one way that could solve your problem if you're looking to sell your property. So now that you know the timeline as to selling a property, and if you are looking to sell your property, I definitely recommend hiring a professional real estate agent that you trust. And if you don't have any, or if we have the honor and pleasure to consult with you, to give the chance to be interviewed by you, we would truly appreciate it. So just reach out to us. Our contact information is down below. And trust me, we don't push people to sell or to buy. Our goal is to help you assess your situation and give you the best options so you can pick what's best for you and your family. And if you like this video, please like it and share it with your friends who's thinking about selling your property. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.